Morning and welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Idris Matusegawa, and what a happy day to wake up and look forward to the new possibilities of this new year. Now, the last 2 years have not been that easy. There has been COVID-19, lockdown, businesses have failed, musicians have not been able to perform. And today on the show, I have a musician extraordinaire who has been in the game for quite a while to discuss what is the next step, what is the way forward for musicians now that the economy is seemingly being opened. What are some of the lessons they have learned from the past, and what new things are they about to do? Isaac Rochi, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well.
I have grown up listening to your music, watching you, and I was really in awe of the music that you guys used to do under Limit X. Sometimes I used to believe that, oh, this must be Americans trying to copy our Luganda.
You're so kind.
It is a big contribution that you guys have put to the Ugandan music industry. But just to get into the conversations that we have today, COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
It has really been a challenge for most musicians. What are some of the lessons you think musicians, or even a musician business person like yourself, what are some of the things that you have learned from COVID-19 that you are going to do better this year?
Let me start off by saying that COVID-19, for me, I'm part of the statistics because I'm a survivor. I don't know if you remember that. I was one of the first people to come out in August of 2020. I had COVID. Then after 3 weeks, I actually ended up quarantined in Mulago. And then I, of course, being a media person and an artist, people started outing my story. So I had to come out and own the narrative. So I'm a survivor. I felt the touch personally for what COVID has done to the industry. And again, being a pioneer and a leader in many aspects, I was one of the first guys to accept that this is probably going to be the new normal. And I did an e-concert with Feza, and it was a first of a kind, which was pay-per-view. And I think that's why I picked up the virus from the rehearsals. And it's been really hard. But what I have seen is that the creative industry has also tapped into their talent of being creatives, and many have started thinking of other ways that you can still survive with the art, even with the closing. So it's not been an easy one. And we're excited, looking forward to the opening. I mean, but again, I think and believe that people still will need to take baby steps because this is like, we're going to need physiotherapy. Like if you have a problem and you hurt something, when you start to walk, you almost have to start from ground zero. So a lot of that is going to happen. So we still need partnerships from media houses, from government, from private sector to kind of come in and help the industry and help them take off.
You mentioned e-concerts, which is basically an online concert. Do you think that is something that musicians and artists are going to continue doing this year? And probably, do you think it's profitable as well as the physical concerts?
This one is not really a matter of choice. I think when you're in a pandemic, you're disrupted. Your normal is no longer as fully functional as it was before. So those that have adapted are starting to thrive. Those who won't adapt will kind of have a difficult time because we don't know. Nobody has the future, and no one can really map it out for us. When it started, we thought it was going to be 4 or 5 months. Then it was 6 months. Then it was 1 year. And now it's been 2 years. So the future is still not clear, even though we know that the intentions from the powers that be are that we open up and open the sector. So I think that the e-concerts or the virtual concerts and other new normals, I think are here to stay. This is one of those things. It's a disruption, and some of it is innovative, and we have to accept and play ball and catch up. If you don't, you're gonna be left behind. Unfortunately, these things have happened before, even in other eras, and in this internet and technology era, we've seen so many disruptive innovations, and we've seen people neglect them and get left behind. A good example is when mobile money came, the banks did not pay attention. It took them 15 years to realize and say, hey, wait a minute. And today the banks are doing exactly what mobile money did 15 years ago. So what I'm saying, the pandemic has affected the whole world. It's not just peculiar to Uganda. So the creative arts have to look at what is the rest of the world doing and also adapt. Because if we do not adapt and play catch up, we're going to get left behind, unfortunately.
And looking back at the 2021 scuffle with musicians, they seemed lost for solution. They did not know what to do. Some of them didn't have any option to kind of get a living. Do you think that this has been a lesson for them to learn from, and artists are now going to start looking at the art or even what they do as musicians as a business, not a hobby?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Because again, like you're right, there's people who were not taking this seriously, and it was a shocker that woke many of them up. And we're going to see this. I mean, this is what, in a week or so, we're going to be opened up, and you're going to see those that have taken their craft seriously. You're going to see evidence that even during the COVID time, they were out there maybe working, writing new songs, and then you're going to see those who will come up and play catch up just the way Ngabagala kutandikira we Chakoma 2 years ago. So if you haven't done anything during these 2 years, if you have not grown your craft and skill in some way, then it's there's a little bit of trouble in the waters for you.
Thank you so much. If you have just joined us, we are discussing, will it be business as usual for musicians come 2022? Have musicians learned anything from the last lockdown years, 2 years without working, looking for money, going to Gulu for handout and fans? So I'm joined with Andrew Kagwa, entertainment journalist. You're welcome, boss.
Welcome.
So you were held up by jam?
Just like, the schools opened, and this, how schools open these days, it's like each and every class opens on a different day. So it's like traffic for 7 days.
Yeah, you have to wake up at 5.
I know.
You have to learn.
I know, it's all my fault.
Get out of that laissez-faire attitude. All right. So Isaac, I've just been joined by Andrew Kagwa in studio, who is an entertainment journalist, and we're still talking about this issue. I was talking to Isaac and asking him, have artists actually learned anything from the 2021 lockdown? Do you think they have learned, or are we just going to see more of the same?
Some of
confusion
them did,
and
some of them did, some of them did not. And most of the times you get to understand those that did not from the way they talk, how they will tell you, like, right now we're too good, everything is going to be fine. And then you're looking at them and you're like, do you actually know the mindset of the people you're going to entertain? But again, there is something I remember I told the PR person of UNCC. I told him, you guys are fighting so hard to see that the industry is reopened, but when we get to 24th, because at the moment it's the date we have, unless the president comes and speaks and says something else, and you know he can.
Yeah.
But it's the date we have. So I asked him, come 24th, are you sure that when the National Theatre is like the other places, the National Theatre is opened and they can invite patrons back, what's there that you're going to offer the people? So many of the people that are celebrating the reopening are not actually looking at these things. Like some people have not been releasing music because they've been apparently waiting for that safe zone, because they think if you release music during the lockdown, that music was going to waste because you're not going to perform it. But then they do not know that in between that time, they gave chance to more energetic kids, more creative kids to come up and do something different, and they gave chance people to forget them. I remember the very first time that happened was when 12 artists decided to do a song campaigning for a president. The song was Tubonga Nawe. And then the public was like, we're going to boycott you. You're not going to listen to your music. So what many of the artists did was to hold on to their music until the anger goes down. And I believe some of them are still holding on to that music 5 years later. But what the others like Bebeko did was to release music. People abused him on social media, but he kept releasing music. And before you knew, someone gets that one song they like out of the 10 you're releasing, and they're like, okay, yeah, he's annoying, but the song is good.
Yeah.
And before you know, that person is coming for your concert, and they're listening to the second one and third one and everything. So many of the people that have been waiting for that safe time, I am so sure they are not going to come back. And you know, something that happened during the lockdown was we watched a lot of online concerts. And before the big brands came onto these online concerts, what we had were very talented people that pick up a guitar and play a song. So we know the difference between an artist who has been serving us lights and production, because we have many of those, like they come on stage when people are somehow high and the lights are too many, and you know what happens when the lights are hitting you and you're high, and then these artists come barely dressed. You don't get to judge them by the way they sing or by the way their backup artist was doing a good job. They will come, they will flat, and everything will go on. When we've been at home watching many of these things online, like you are sober enough, you could see, okay.
So probably maybe those artists are waiting for the time when the economy is open, people are getting back to bars and getting high, and then perform for them again.
Are you sure people are immediately going to go back to
Well, I'll come back to you, Isaac. For someone like you who has been in the industry for over 30 years, it seems like our artists here today in Kampala look at only performing concerts as the only way they can earn from their money, from their music. They can earn money from their music. What could you tell them? Like, what are other avenues that someone like Bobby Wine or Chameleon or these younger artists, how can they earn money from their music? Because that has been the challenge.
I think what people need to appreciate is that the internet has allowed us and given us avenues that can create extra revenue streams. People now need to focus on distribution, and the internet has made it so easy. When we were coming up, you almost had to have a record deal. You had to have a record company that has distribution. There was so much that went into doing this thing. But today, the internet is allowing us that if you have a small team of 2 or 3 dedicated people, you can still be able to earn and make some money with all the distributions, because now you can get with one outfit, Spotify and the like, and they'll put you into like 150 different markets, and you can have your music streaming and you start earning online. That is going to be very important going forward. Everyone has to adapt to that. That's the new normal. You know, like you said, 30 years ago, we were playing vinyls, then we played CDs, then we played mini discs, and now everything is about streaming. So, you know, everyone has to play catch up. Otherwise, you're gonna miss the bus.
He's mentioned about catching up and learning fast, adapting to the system, to the new era. What are some of the things, when he talks about internet being an avenue for musicians to put out their art, and then we have challenges whereby internet is expensive, there is low access. Is it time for artists to kind of widen their scope, their reach from only Uganda to international?
Okay, why I'm laughing is...
Why are you laughing?
I'm currently finishing a documentary film about, it's aptly titled Online Concert.
Okay.
But one of the things it's looking at is how many of us looked at the internet as the savior when the pandemic happened. And when I think about it, we were not wrong. It's just that many of the things that played around that time did not play in our favor. But truth is, the internet is supposed to be the future. But when you look at Uganda, where the situation is bad, where our internet is very expensive compared to any of the other countries. But even if we didn't have these problems, I think any serious artist right now shouldn't be looking at Uganda as the only market, because just put up a video, just put up a video on YouTube, and you see, you might get, say, 1,000 views in one day, but when you go down and check the analytics, you'll notice that the biggest percentage of the people watching are not actually in Uganda. Like, naturally, Uganda is a very small market. Like, this is something we cannot fight. Even if the internet is cheap, even if we wake up and the internet is very cheap, the biggest number of users will remain in Uganda. Like, at the beginning of the week, I was in Moyo. And I was in a place where there was only probably countable smartphones, and all the people that had those smartphones had come from Kampala. Like, we are a very, very small market. We have one city. Okay, we have all these cities, but there is only one city that you could say is operating at about 18 hours. Like, all the others are probably dead by about 7 or 9. So any serious artist out there that's looking at music and they're serious about music, you cannot be planning for Uganda alone. Like, you have to widen your scope. You have to be thinking Nairobi, you have to be thinking Tanzania. And okay, I wouldn't want to push people into the Nigerian pool. It's quite a mountain. Yeah. But you have to look at least you have to look at your neighbors. Some of them are very easy to penetrate.
Yeah. Isaac, coming back to you, you mentioned something very interesting that caught my attention. You talked about having a record deal 30 years ago, and that meant you were under some sort of management. Now, last year, we've seen some of these artists coming out and saying that they didn't own rights to their songs, then they didn't own rights to their social media pages or YouTube channels, and then all that money wasn't going to them. So what do you think musicians should pay attention to in terms of managing their craft and managing it in terms of business? This
you see, sometimes, being that we're creatives, we overlook things because God created the universe in 6 or 7 days. He was a creative. And because we're creative, sometimes we also think we're gods and don't pay attention to detail. But if you're going to get into a relationship of management or record company, you need to ask the right questions. Because no record company or management should own outright your works. You should be able to share, and the sharing should be agreeable. I mean, these things happened even when we were having major record labels, even major artists had problems. You remember Prince, when he retaliated to the industry and put the word slave on his face, and he was not releasing any new music. This is probably one of the biggest artists in the world ever. But even he, with all his good lawyers, had problems with his record company. Some of these things are really not avoidable, because the human being, as long as people are greedy, somebody will try to take you for a ride. But, just learn to scrutinize, consult if you have lawyers in your circles, or get a lawyer and pay that fee, and make sure that you're getting a right contract, a fair contract. Because when we started off, you said that we talked about this being a business. People have to realize that a very big percentage of what we do is a business. There's a trickle down. There's other people make money other than Viper Rankin, who is on stage singing. His management, his record label, all these people make money off of what he does. So it is a business, and you have to pay attention and look at it as a business.
Do you think that artists are falling into this trap, as Isaac has put it, because they are not aware of what they're supposed to do? Are people just jumping into the music industry because probably I want to be famous, I want to grow my social media account? Is there enough awareness?
It's a two-way thing. I think awareness has, there've been a lot of awareness. There've been very many artists that have been coming up and talking about how a record label exploited them. He talked about Prince. There was a situation involving Jojo, that teen artist at the time. And then in Africa, there was a situation involving Cynthia Morgan. For Cynthia Morgan, it was worse. She was born Cynthia Morgan. That's her name. But when the record deal went bad, she couldn't use her own name on stage again. So she had to get a pseudonym to use, but she was actually born Cynthia Morgan. She had to get another name because now that name was kind of copyrighted to, there's a word they use in law, but it was illegal for her to use her name again. So we've had very many situations, but one of the things I would say is one passion. At the time when many artists are starting out, it's usually about the passion, and you see, the passion is you have something to say and you want to say it, but you cannot say it, yet there is someone who is going to help you say it in a very good way. And at that time, you think you'll be smarter because you've heard all these stories and you're thinking, okay, I think I can make a better deal. I mean, just think about Lou Reed. Lou Reed was the guy that discovered Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and a couple of other boy bands. And the NSYNC story was too bad that he took them to court claiming he was NSYNC and NSYNC was him. This is when they tried to break away from him, and they tried to continue using the NSYNC name. And I remember the judge that settled this case just said, my daughter has a very big pin-up of NSYNC in her room, and I don't see this man. It's these people. So deals are always made because people believe they will be smarter, they will maybe do better, they will not be exploited, or they think I'll get some fame and then I'll run away and try to do things in my way, not knowing probably the deal they signed was enslaving them in a way. And in Uganda, it's very bad that very many people do not want to read a lot, more so in the creative industry. I will tell you, for example, the film industry. There are very many people that have money for people to make their films. Like all you need to do is write a proposal, say this is the kind of film I want to make. It's looking at this target audience. Like you just go through all that. But most people do not want to go through that line because they do not want to write, they do not want to read, they don't want to be asked questions. So it's kind of a problem with the entertainment industry, with the creative industry. There is that culture where we do not want to sign a lot of papers, we don't want to read a lot of papers. So most of the times we sign in a rushed way. You just ask, okay, where is the figure? They show you the figure you're receiving and you sign. Like I heard of an artist who wanted to show this person he was signing with that he was so big, so he was like, I was signing in my car. So this person comes to his car, and what the artist does is put the mirrors up, he lights a cigarette, and he starts smoking in this person's face, making him uncomfortable. So the person gave him a deal, and the person had to sign, like it had to be signed quickly because this person wanted to get out of the discomfort. But the artist felt good, like they had mistreated this person, but they had not read the contract. And almost 20 years later, we got to learn that the person they signed with at that time got rights of their music, like
every single bit.
Like every single bit of it.
Well. Isaac, I would like to come back to you. You are in the music management business, and I think last year you signed Africo Band, if I'm right. Is that right?
Yeah, more of like a project with One Best Afrique. Not necessarily an outright, because right now what people are doing is they're being very innovative to where you can actually, if you find a record label that is interested, instead of going for the usual suspect, which we know used to be offered, which is called a 360, people can come in and be specific and say, I'm going to record my music, I'm going to manage my distribution, but I need a partner on the streaming platforms, making the videos. And that is in particular the kind of deal that we have with Afrigo, with One Best Afrique, who I'm doing consultancy for. I'm not the CEO, but I'm a consultant there.
Andrew was talking about the fact that most musicians might not actually understand the value of being managed. He gave an example, a story of somebody who signed a contract without necessarily looking through the contract. So what are some of the benefits that come out of management for you as a musician who has been under a label, and right now you are carrying out management for artists?
The benefits are many, but the most critical is you have a team of people who focus on the business side, which would allow you to fully be a creative. When people get disrupted, because not everyone has that sharp mind. There are some that can pull it off, where they can do it all. But even that can be fatiguing creatively to where you start getting writing blocks because you can't write anymore because you're focusing on the business. The advantage is you have people that can come in and focus on growing you as a brand, getting all your work out there, and then your work would be to focus on just improving on your skill. That is how important and beneficial working with a record label or a management company.
Well, Andrew, you talked about something interesting, and also Isaac has reiterated it. Do you think that artists or the music industry is not taken as serious as it should be in Uganda? Because when you go back 30 years ago, 25, music was seen as something done by someone who is a loser. You failed at education, formal education, and then that's your option. Do you think it's still the mentality that artists are having, or even society is having, in joining the industry? So that's why they are not taking it as serious as a business, doing all documentation, reading, as you mentioned?
It's a yes and no. One, Funny thing is that some of our best artists came from an era that people believed that the era when people used to believe that music was for losers.
Yeah.
But of course, one of the things I've noticed, because I've gotten a chance to speak to very many musicians of the time, actors or stage practitioners of the times, and I remember meeting engineer Wasanyi Serukenya. And I noticed he was a very active engineer even when he wrote all that music for Limbara Wankoko. I think he did many of the plays of Byron Kawadwa. And I noticed he was a very active engineer. And then I was speaking to Eddie Wamala's wife, and I noticed he used to work at UBC at some point. So it seems at that time, because music was thought as a thing for losers, many of the artists that came into the industry had other jobs. But then 2000 happened. Like, I have a friend who usually says that's when music fell. And he says that because that happened after the bus corridor saga. And if you don't know the bus corridor saga, that's a couple of artists went to Nairobi, came back with music, and they kind of introduced the whole payola thing, where you pay a DJ or you pay a radio presenter, they play your music more than they play anyone else.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who usually says that's when music fell in Uganda. But of course, that whole wave came with the showbiz and everything. When people started becoming famous, started driving big cars, now the focus of very many youths that had been with them in the ghettos and everything was, if I sing, I'll probably buy a car. And then, of course, you had those parents that are like, if he sings, then he has become a moyaye. Now, very many years later, when music has started influencing politics and all the likes, you have all these notions that are still floating around. The people that believe it's actually serious, it's actually a business, you can make money out of it. There are these people that look at it, this is my easiest way to getting famous. And then there are people that are way older than us that are still trying to understand how this whole thing works, and they still do not take it serious. Unfortunately, the people that do not take it serious are the people in power, are the people that are making
decision makers, basically.
Yeah, they are the decision makers.
It seems the journey is way too long for us to say that we are there yet. We are rounding up the discussion of today. Has music, the music industry in particular, have they learned from the lockdown, the 2021, 2020 era of lockdowns, no concerts, nothing? And I have in studio Andrew Kagwa. What is the way forward?
For any artist that's out there, they just need to understand that music doesn't stop and end on this stage.
Yeah.
Because the way most of the people are talking, it feels like the only way they can actually make money is on the stage. Music doesn't stop and end on the stage. As an artist, you're a business. Your brand is a business. I think this should be the year where people should make a lot of money when they are not on stage.
Yeah.
People should be tapping into the whole endorsement thing, because I know very many artists in Uganda that got a lot of money during the lockdown because they signed an endorsement deal or the brand ambassador of something. I think we should be getting into that. They should be they should be more serious about their content creation abilities. I mean, I look at artists like Sauti Sol, who did like three online concerts, and they were all fully paid for by other brands. In Uganda, most people were doing online concerts that were not paid for at all, so they were losing money while they were doing it, and the other people were making money while they were doing it. So we should be looking at all these avenues where they can make money, but they can only do that if they have the right team of people, because as an artist you can't do all that by yourself.
Isaac, it's 2022, the economy is opening up, and what's next? What's next for the musician?
I would like to agree with Mr. Kagwa. What artists need to appreciate that there is more that can be done. Build your brand and then find ways of exploiting that brand. You know, let it be multifaceted so that you're not only a person on stage. I'm a good example. You know, for almost 30 years I sang in front of a mic, but then I started evolving and growing. I did not leave the industry, but I exploited my brand, the celebrity and the name, and I started doing events. I became a promoter, and eventually I even became an MC. I mean, I like to brag that I'm probably one of the most prolific, or you know, one of the baddest MCs in town. I could get paid about $1,000 just to come and speak for 2 hours. Now, I still have the passion to sing, but find ways of making money and exploiting you as a brand. That is why it is important when you're an artist. It's important how you carry yourself, what you do with yourself on and off the stage. Because no one wants to, you know, get a brand that will come and tarnish their product. What next is, guys, you gotta agree that something came and disrupted our way of life. It may never go back to what we know it as. So new normal is exploit your brand, exploit the internet. Streaming is the new thing. Get your videos out. You might not necessarily be on stage as many times as you would have wanted to, but you can still make money out of your works.
Isaac Ruchi, the baddest MC in the ground. And thank you so much for all the wisdom that you have shared with the country. Andrew, thank you so much for turning up, and thank you for your contribution to the music industry. And I hope any musician out there has learned a thing or two, and probably this year might be better. Start looking at what you do as a business, run it as a business, and get a group. Get a group of people who are going to help you push all that you need to push.